At the end of all of that, 58% of all new income goes to the top 1%. And then you got, that's income. And then in terms of wealth, you got the top 1/10 of 1% today owning almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. You got the 20 wealthiest people in this country owning more wealth than the bottom 150 million, half of America. This is a rigged economy. You know, heads they win, tails you lose. So together, you ready for a radical idea? Together, we are going to create an economy that works for working families, not just the 1%. When we talk about the economy, please understand that every month you see on the front pages of the paper statistics about unemployment. Official unemployment nationally is 5%. Anyone believe that? No. You're right. It's really, if you look at people who have given up looking for work and who are working part-time, real unemployment is close to 10%. And here is something else that we do not talk about at all. Media has nothing to say about it. And that is youth unemployment in this country. Kids who graduated high school between 17 and 20, if those kids are white, 33% are unemployed or underemployed, Latino 36%, African American 51%. And if anyone here thinks there is not a direct correlation between that outrageously high rate of youth unemployment and the fact that we have more people in jail than any other country, you would be missing an important point. So here's radical idea number 2. We are going to invest for our young people in jobs and education, not jails and incarceration. And when real unemployment is almost 10%, and when we have an infrastructure which is collapsing in many parts of this country. I was in Flint, Michigan the other day. And let me just tell you, because I don't even want to talk about it, it's so horrific. It was hard for me to believe that I was listening to people who were living in the United States of America in the year 2016. When you hear what they were talking about, the poisoning of children because of a terrible, terrible water system, schools that are totally inadequate, healthcare system terribly inadequate, massive poverty in that city, you would think you're living in a fourth world country. You really would. But it's not just Flint. All over this country, we have water systems in trouble, wastewater plants, roads, bridges, rail system, airports, levees, and dams. We can create 13 million decent-paying jobs rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. Think about America. Think about an America which has the best rail system in the world. Think about an America which has great public transportation, which has state-of-the-art water systems and wastewater plants, and which creates millions of jobs doing that. And when we look at our educational system, we should be hiring teachers, not firing teachers. And it is important again to think out of the box, think outside of the status quo. Every psychologist who studies the issue understands that the most important years for intellectual and emotional development are 0 through 4. That's a fact. And yet, all over this country, working parents are finding it very hard to get quality, affordable child care. You have child care workers who make wages lower than McDonald's wages, while they do some of the most important work in our society. We can create hundreds of thousands of jobs, good jobs, rebuilding our dysfunctional child care system. Now, Jane and I, you met Jane and I, have been married 27 years. We have four great kids and 7 beautiful grandchildren, and we believe in family values. But our family values are a little teeny bit different than Republican family values. And I want everybody here to understand what Republican family values are, what they mean. And what they mean when they talk about family values is that no woman in this room, in this state, in this country should have the right to control her own body. I disagree. What they mean is that the federal government should defund Planned Parenthood. I believe we should expand funding for Planned Parenthood. What they mean about family values is that our gay brothers and sisters should not have the right to be married. I disagree. And when I talk about family values, what I talk about is the international embarrassment of the United States being one of the few countries in the world, not just major, but even poor countries, that does not guarantee paid family and medical leave. Now, you tell me whether in America in the year 2016, a working class woman who has a baby today should be forced to separate herself from her baby and go back to work because she needs to bring income into her family. That is not a family value. What we need to do is pass legislation in Congress right now which guarantees 3 months of paid family and medical leave. And let me make a very simple, straightforward promise to you this evening, and that is, with Citizens United undermining American democracy, no justice to the Supreme Court that I will nominate will get that position unless he or she makes it crystal clear that they will vote to overturn Citizens United. And when we talk about the economy today, Everybody here understands that we live in a competitive global economy. We need the best educated workforce in the world. It is incomprehensible to me, and again, I ask you to think outside of the box, incomprehensible that hundreds of thousands of bright young people, qualified young people, who want to go to college are unable to do so because their families lack the money. That's pretty easy stuff. And that is why I believe that in the year 2016, when we talk about public education, it's not good enough to talk about first grade through 12th grade. We have got to make public colleges and universities tuition free. Is this a radical idea? I don't think so. Germany does it, Scandinavia does it, countries all over the world. They are investing in their young people, investing in the future. Now, I am criticized for saying, well, I think this is an important step forward. I think we have to substantially reduce the burden of student debt. And then people say, well, that's, you want to make public colleges, universities tuition free, you want to lower student debt. It's an expensive proposition. It is, about $70 billion a year. How am I going to pay for it? We're going to pay for it by putting a tax on Wall Street speculation. This is what a rigged economy is about. When Wall Street's recklessness and greed and illegal behavior brought this country into the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression, Wall Street went begging to Congress and they said, bail us out, bail us out. Well, if Congress could bail out the crooks on Wall Street, then you know what? It's time for Wall Street now to help the middle class of this country. Let me say a word about Wall Street, because I think very few people recognize the incredible power that they have over our country. When I talk about a corrupt campaign finance system and a rigged economy and a broken criminal justice system, it all comes together in one brief story. Some of you may have read about a month ago that Goldman Sachs, one of the large financial institutions on Wall Street, agreed to a settlement with the U.S. government for $5 billion. $5 billion. Now, why did they reach that agreement? They reached that agreement because, of course, they were selling fraudulent and worthless packages of subprime mortgage loans. All right? So they reached the $5 billion settlement, point one. Point number two, Wall Street firms like Goldman Sachs make huge contributions to candidates. So they put millions and millions of dollars into the political process to get candidates to be beholden to them. Point number three, the revolving door. You know what a revolving door is? People go from Wall Street to government back to Wall Street. Last 25 years, Goldman Sachs itself has had 2 secretaries of the Treasury, as well as many other high-ranking government officials, work on government, go back to Wall Street. Point number 4, maybe the most painful of all to the American people. Some kid in Minnesota today, or Vermont, gets picked up for having marijuana, possessing marijuana. That kid gets a criminal record which stays with him for his entire life. But if you are an executive on Wall Street whose fraudulent behavior destroyed the lives of millions of people, you know what happens to you? No, wrong. You get a salary increase. And then if you are the head of Goldman Sachs, you come to Congress as a billionaire and you say to Congress, cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and give huge tax breaks to the wealthy. Together, we are going to bring justice back to a broken criminal justice system.